to Data in 10. I am Medha, joined by my co host Anurag. And today we have a very special guest with us, Rachel Keane, who is the founder of the Data Inspiration Group. Rachel, we are so happy to have you here. A very warm welcome to you. And could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and the journey that has brought you here?
Absolutely, and thank you so much for inviting me to be on this session. It's an absolute privilege. I've been looking forward to it all week. I'm Rachel, I'm the founder of the Data Inspiration Group and the DigData program. So, for those of you that don't know what that is, it's a virtual work experience offering for students across secondary, further, and higher education, where we work with partners to co-create work experience resources that young people can develop key and critical employability skills, things like data literacy and AI awareness, critical thinking, storytelling, etc. I had a 12-year career where I placed a lot of young people into their first role, as well as young people throughout their career. Was very, whilst I loved that, I was always very frustrated that students always saw data careers equal in working in finance, but actually there just wasn't that education out there to showcase that actually there was a whole breadth of careers and industry sectors that they could follow, and I wanted to change that.
So, Rachel, we'll talk a little bit about your pivot to Data Inspiration Group. So, after a successful decade long career in recruitment, as you mentioned, and then you started the Data Inspiration Group, what was the moment or the realization that made you think this is what you want to do next?
I think there's been a couple of points actually where I wanted to sort of move out of recruitment, and I think going back to what I've just said, I really enjoyed placing young people into their first job out of university. There is nothing better than hearing that kind of squeal of excitement that, oh my God, I've got my first job. And, we all remember being there, right? And how excited we feel. And I think that's a real kind of moment that you feel, and it meant a lot to me. And I think for me, my own daughter was going off to college. She was turning 18. I stupidly thought she'd need me less, and I thought, this is my time. I'm 45. I really want to now have a legacy where I am making impact and giving young people the opportunity, whoever they are and from wherever they're from, to see an exciting career and be able to prepare for that.
To be honest, it takes a lot of courage, Rachel, to, leave your stable job and start something of your own as well. So hats off to you, because a lot of people think about, starting something of their own, but only a few have the courage to actually do it. So amazing.
Thank you.
And I can't help but notice that you called yourself the chief data inspirer. And that's a very deliberate choice of words for sure. So, just curious, like, what does inspiration mean to you as a leadership philosophy, and what does it look like in practice, day to day for you?
Well, I'd just like to make it very clear that it was not my decision to call myself a chief data inspirer. I would never do that, But I've got to say, it's been a real kind of crowd puller. There's a lot of people that say, "Oh, I love your job title," which is great. It's a great conversation starter for sure. But it wasn't my choice to do that. What does inspiration mean to me from a leadership point of view? I think actually, it's about wanting to give young people belief, for them to give them opportunity, for them to see themselves in a different light, and for me to be able to kind of lead that light and that baton for them to do it. So I think the title fits quite well, although it's a little bit gimmicky, I'll give you that. But it's fun, and that's what we're trying to do at the Data Inspiration Group. We're trying to give young people fun and engaging opportunities. I think for me, every day is inspiring because I get the opportunity to be able to connect the dots, as it were, and also work with some really awesome clients.
One of the things you touched upon, and also Medha mentioned, that the ideology of starting something is much easier said than done. A lot of people think about it but don't end up doing so. For professionals or people to start something of their own, what do you think it really takes? What are the tangible steps that they can take, and what are the risks and rewards in your perspective?
Well, my first bit of advice would be this: don't think about it and do it. So I think if you think about anything too much, you don't do anything, right? You talk yourself out of everything. I think don't be afraid of failure. What does failure even mean? Don't be afraid of not knowing how to do stuff, because there are a million things that I feel like I've learned, but one thing I do know is there's always somebody out there with that knowledge that is always willing to help you and to hold you up and define what you think is a risk or reward, or even what you think success is. But I feel for me, it was really important that I took a leap, that I sort of took everything that I'd learned, took everything that I was really passionate about, and I put that together. And that's what we promote every single day. And actually, this is what a career is about. It's not about, one foot in front of the other. It's about taking chances and learning along the way. And I guess that's what we're all doing.
Absolutely. That totally makes sense. So, Rachel, based on everything that you have done so far, through your DigData program as well, which is specifically focused at those young individuals who are trying to take their first step in the world of data, what's a common misconception that you think these people have when they're thinking about a career in data?
I think the first misconception they have is that it's nerdy and that you've got to be a maths genius and that it's boring. And they have a complete lack of knowledge, right? Which is why they have this misconception.
I think you're right because when even I was thinking of entering into the world of data, even I thought that, oh, maybe I'm not that good at math, which is probably needed for analytics and data. And that's why I thought maybe I'm not a good fit for it. But then Anurag had more experience back then. He showed me that there's the visualization side to it. There's
Exactly.
so much more into, the world of data that you can get
And
into.
there's so many skills that people just don't associate to a career in data. And actually, there's lots of different skills that really help make a dynamic team. And there isn't that data unicorn out there doing it on their own. And that's what we really need to communicate to young people.
As you mentioned, Rachel, I think there's quite a bit of sparse matrix of careers that's available in data, right from, let's say, data engineering, data visualization specialists, data analytics specialists, and now transforming into more of, let's say, tech or software engineering sector and becoming AI engineers to the likes of that. And you have experience across so many of these fields from your current stint as well as your prior. So, what is that common feature that you see among the young professionals after which you feel that they will definitely succeed in the data horizon?
Well, do you know what? I'll give you an example now. We do things called data days, right? Just to give you some context, that they are a day that we host at a school or college in the UK. We deliver it to an entire year group of students and they work in small teams to solve one of our partners' career challenges. And quite recently, we did one for GSK. This particular day, we decided that whilst we were giving them work experience and a virtual work experience certificate for completion, actually, if any of the students did really well, we'd award up to 3 places of this 16 place placement, on the spot, really, and fast track them through. There was probably about 80 young people there, and they really mixed the teams up in terms of ability. What was really interesting, the 3 people were completely different. So there was one young chap whose critical thinking absolutely blew everybody away. Right, they were like, this guy is seriously thinking outside the box. There was another young lad that was a programmer, and he'd kind of had experience before, but he'd really shone through. But my favourite is a young girl who had never probably even opened Excel before, done anything of this nature, but she was dedicated all day. She was asking questions. She was on it in terms of making the presentation, making it creative, presenting it really well. When we announced the winners, she was so shocked. People just don't realise how data literate they are or the skills that they bring to it. So I think those are the things that bring me joy. But equally, when you see that light bulb moment, and it will be, especially in girls, they're like, I don't get it, don't get it, don't get it. Then they get it. And when they get it, they really get it. So can I see something? Yeah, but can I put my finger on it as to what that is? No, that's just gut instinct.
If I were to summarize, you would say that it's not like a specific skill that you identify in a person. It doesn't have to be like a coding skill or a math skill that you're looking in them. It can be very much soft skill, their curiosity, their ability to ask questions and devise like the storytelling side of it as well.
Absolutely. And even, we've had young people, when certainly when they're working in teams, that they have an ability to be able to lead that team and to
Yeah,
understand who can sort of dig in where and,
exactly.
and really help get the challenge over the line. And that's a skill in itself.
So here's a question for you. Let's say some young student who comes to you and says, I love the idea of working in data, but I have no idea where to get started. So what's the first thing you would tell them?
Register for DigData. Register for DigData and check out our partner challenges. I think our portfolio of clients is really diverse. So, as is the problem statements for it. So, they might be, let's say they think they want to go and work in banking. It could be that they do the banking challenge, think, well, that might be a bit dry. They
Yeah.
might then go on to do a Google one and think, actually, I really enjoyed that. Or they might go and do a telecoms one, whatever. That kind of library of resources really gives young people the opportunity to see the different kind of problem statements, right? That you can solve. And then you go, actually, that really interests me.
That's very interesting. And I love the fact that, people can explore different domains in it because data is so wide. There are so many industries. What are you even good at? Like, how do you identify
Exactly.
that? So that definitely is a great platform for sure.
Amazing. So, Rachel, no podcast today is complete without talking about AI. So, maybe one of the last questions, but there's a lot of noise right now about AI replacing data jobs, and also people are struggling to keep up to pace with AI because it's changing so fast. How do you advise young people today to future proof themselves?
Well, I think from a skills point of view, I think it's still really important that young people understand how to work with data, how they understand foundational knowledge of what maybe an output needs to look like. They would need to think about how do we use our critical thinking skills? How do we question this? How do we really sense check what the output of this data is? And without being able to know that by having those foundational skills, I don't think that's a waste. So I think actually the current skills very much need to act as that foundation. There's a lot of scaremongery around AI. Yeah, what's the point of doing that? What's the point of doing that? There's not going to be jobs. There's that going on in industry, I think, and in education. And I think the key point for young people is to really be aware of the skills that you need to develop, which are power of asking, literacy and AI awareness, what's happening, how can it benefit you, how can I sense check it, and make sure that it's going to give me the right output. And actually, how am I going to tell someone about it? And then work out from there what's that part that you like, and the rest of it will come.
Makes perfect sense. So, how I read what you just said, like we have to stick to our fundamentals, they don't change. And AI is penetrating us vertically through the horizons. We need to make sure that we keep up to speed, but at the same time, stick to our fundamentals, stick to what we really like to do. And we don't need to worry beyond that.
I think that's the thing. Just focus on, like you say, what you can do and where you can develop. And like you say, this is why platforms like ours, are here and really available and free and evolving. And it's about getting that experience and understanding right now at that foundational stage, what is it that I like doing, and then the rest of the skills will be developed along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Rachel. Knowing you was a pleasure. Plus, thank you so much for sharing your journey with our audience, with us as well. For our listeners, we will see you in the next episode of Data in 10. Thank you so much.